These are the worst books that I read in 2018. Some of them were released this year, some of them are backlist titles that I just couldn't connect with. As a disclaimer, I did rate some books lower than some of the books on this list, but I just have more to talk about with these ones, so I figured I would just ignore the others and focus on the books that I could actually talk about because this is a booktube video. The first one is The Bowels. This was a debut for this year and everyone was hyping it up and saying how fantastic it was, but it wasn't. It's a fantasy book set in New Orleans, and in this society beauty is everything, and rich people hire the bowels, and these are people who can manipulate your features to make them look stunning and to kind of go along with all the new fashion trends. To be honest, it did have a very promising premise, but it was awful. It was terribly written and the main characters were bad. The author killed off 2 out of 3 queer characters, and the book massively fell into the bury your gays trope. So yeah, I hated it, really didn't enjoy it, and I will not be reading the sequel when it's out next year. Then there's Nevernight by J. Kristoff. I spoke about this at length in a recent review. This one was just really badly written. It had some awful footnotes that included all of the world building instead of Kristoff having put that in the main text, and it pulled me out of the story, and they weren't just things that you could ignore but still get the full experience from the book because so much of the world building was in these footnotes, and I just didn't like it. I thought it was crap. The third one is Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough, another very popular book. I was enjoying this one a lot. It's an adult thriller and it was very thrilling right up until the final couple of chapters where it completely switched genres and got really weird, and I don't know why. I really wasn't a fan of it and I'm quite disappointed and also angry at the ending. Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is a fantasy that everyone is going on about and I really didn't enjoy it. I thought the writing was too flowery and whimsical and the characters were just dull and the plot wasn't really going anywhere, so I didn't really enjoy it at all. I might have had a different experience if I had actually read the physical book, but I was listening to it as an audiobook and I couldn't get into it. Then there's The Girl Before, which is another adult thriller. It's hard to describe what this one's about, but basically the author did a very, very bad job of writing female characters and it came off as quite misogynistic and I was not here for that. I did talk about this a bit more in a wrap-up, so you can go and check out that video if you want to know more. But basically, I wasn't a fan of the way that he handled female characters, and so I was not a fan of the book. The sixth one is another debut from this year, and that is The Astonishing Colour of After. To go along with how everyone else describes it, this is about a girl whose mother turns into a bird. The main character is Taiwanese American, and she goes to stay with her grandparents in Taiwan after her mother dies because she wants to get to know that side of her family and that side of her mother a bit more. And to be honest, I thought it did sound really, really good when I first bought it, obviously, but I just couldn't get over the flowery writing, and also I wasn't a fan of this type of magical realism. Like, the whole bird thing was legit. I didn't really like it. I wanted a normal contemporary, I think, from it. Seventh one is another debut that was really, really overhyped, and that is All of This Is True. This is meant to be a YA thriller, but really it's just more of a contemporary about some bitchy characters and a bitchy adult manipulating teenagers, so I hated it. I really didn't enjoy it and I regret buying it. And lastly, there is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. I watched the Dark Tower movie whenever it came out. I can't remember when. Last year, maybe? And I enjoyed the world building enough to try the book series, but to be honest, this book was so slow and boring that I just couldn't get into it. I really struggled to connect to Stephen King's writing, it seems, because I have this issue with most of his books. And I do wonder if the following books in the series will become more in-depth and interesting, but as it was, this book was 250 pages of just nonsense, and I just couldn't connect with it at all. So those are the worst books that I read in 2018. Some of them, anyway. If you agree with me about any of these, let me know in the comments below, or just tell me what your least favourite books were of the year. I would love to have a discussion. Maybe we've got some overlapping or crossovers. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll speak to you in my next video. Bye!